They was not scared of Suge Knight. They was terrified.
Like, was somebody from the barbershop like punch you and knock you out after that? Like, knocked out, like the guy from the barbershop do that? It changed. And they be like, Suge's outside. And everybody be like, yeah. What do you want?
Eminem and 50 Cent really outdid themselves this time. They just sent a serious warning to Suge Knight, and what they said is enough to question everything we thought we knew about their fallout and trust they still hold a long-standing anger against Suge, and what he did to the people closer to them. Now, for those who don't know the history, like that this whole tension didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Eminem and 50 basically inherited it the second they linked with Dr. Dre. Suge Knight, real name Marion Hugh Knight Jr., moved into the music world, first work in security for stars like Bobby Brown, but it didn't take long for him to realize the real power wasn't on stage, it was behind the scenes. In 1991, Suge linked up with Dr. Dre, the DOC, and Dick Griffey to form what would become one of the most feared labels in rap history, Death Row Records. Dr. Dre dropped The Chronic in '92, and it changed everything. That sound untouchable. Then Snoop came through with Doggy Style in '93, and the charts weren't safe anymore. By the time they added Tupac to the roster, it was over. Death Row was the culture, they had the sound, the swagger, the millions, but all that shine came with shadows behind the music. Suge Knight had a rep that wasn't just talk. He didn't just run Death Row, he ruled it. Word is Vanilla Ice got cornered into signing over royalties, and it doesn't stop there. Multiple sources have brought up incidents Suge Knight made artists stripping in the office over stuff that could have been settled with a convo. That whole setup was built on fear, control, and whatever Suge said. When eventually Dre had enough in 1996, he dipped out, left behind his royalties, his 50% stake in the label, everything. That's how bad he wanted out. He chose peace and built Aftermath Records from the ground up.
Well, I don't lead by money. I've never let money lead.
But here's the thing, Suge wasn't about to let that go easy. Suge felt betrayed and made it a personal mission to make sure Dre didn't win without him. And at first it looked like he had a point. Aftermath's early drops weren't hitting like people expected. Some folks in the streets were whispering that Dre had lost his touch. Meanwhile, Suge was sitting back watching from the sidelines, like he didn't even have to lift a finger. But just when the street thought Dre might really fall off, he made a move nobody saw coming. He signed a white kid from Detroit who had something to prove. Eminem, he from Detroit, man from 8 Mile Bro. When the Slim Shady LP dropped, the whole game shifted. Eminem came in wild, raw, and sharp, and before anyone could blink, he had 3 Grammys in his pocket. Dre was back on top, and that's Suge Knight stopped watching quietly and started plotting again. This time his focus wasn't just Dre. According to several media outlets, Suge had his eye on Eminem now.
It was real. It was like, oh, man. This is when I knew. I'm like, damn, Eminem is a real.
Fast forward to 1999, an award show night that still gets talked about. Eminem was walking to the stage, probably thinking it was just another moment, but then Suge's crew showed up, deep red shirts on, loud, and surrounding M, yelling Death Row.
Em was walking to the seat, I'm standing up to the side, and Em was cut off on his way to the seat, and all these guys in red shirts surround him. And I'm looking at M's face, and I'm looking at these guys, I'm like, something ain't right. So I started making my way around to come up the aisle. And they said, I know, you see all these guys talking about Death Row, Death Row. I was like, Death Row, what's it got to do with him? He said, hey man, Suge sent him a message. I was like, oh, yeah. Well, in 1999 at the Source Awards, Suge Knight...
They wanted to shake him up, they wanted to send a message. But Eminem just kept it pushing, didn't flinch, didn't fold, just went up there, handed that award to DMX, and sat back down like nothing happened.
This award for best performance goes to... Who's the winner? Where my dogs at? DMX!
Even outside the venue, Suge Knight people weren't done. They hung back by Eminem's limo, lingering, waiting like they still had something to prove. But it didn't matter. M had been through way worse. That kind of pressure wasn't about to break him.
For that, we got out of it. Because the limo, that's where it gets up. Because the limo, Death Row, is still sitting out there waiting for us. The limo's pulling off as we're coming out. Death Row's behind us. It was like, He's trying to kill us, man. What they trying to do? What do they want? I don't understand. What do they want?
M's ready to swing on someone if he has to.
Yeah, man. You know, like I said, he ain't no.
Over the years, Suge never really backed off. Anytime Eminem was making waves, Suge found a way to throw shade, whether it was interviews or behind the scenes. He always tried to downplay Slim's rise, saying M didn't come from the streets, claiming he was just playing a character. And then one cassette tape changed everything. While digging through demos with Jimmy Iovine, Dre heard something that made him go, "What the fuck?" And who the? That the voice belonged to Eminem, a young rapper from Detroit struggling to make ends meet. Raised by a single mother, Eminem had faced poverty, bullying, and hardship, but those struggles fueled his fire in Detroit's underground rap scene. Eminem worked relentlessly to prove himself. Being a white rapper in a genre dominated by black artists made his journey even harder, but his raw energy and unique lyrics made him stand out. In 1998, Dre took a gamble and signed Eminem to Aftermath. Together they created the Slim Shady LP, the album that changed everything. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, selling 283,000 copies in its first week. The album earned Eminem a Grammy for Best Rap Album and put Dre back at the top of the music industry. The duo became one of hip-hop's most iconic partnerships. But as with any success, not everyone was cheering them on. Suge Knight, watching from the sidelines, felt threatened. By this point, Death Row Records had changed drastically.
Dr. Dre left first, Pac died. You know, all of those things kept us at number 1. The music changed. The direction changed.
Tupac was gone, Suge himself was behind bars, and Snoop Dogg had become another thorn in his side.
Tupac was gone, Suge himself was behind bars, and Snoop Dogg had become another thorn in his son. Just like Dr. Dre, Snoop wasn't interested in the East Coast versus West Coast feud. He stayed friends with people Suge considered enemies, and that didn't sit well with him. Tensions escalated quickly. Suge, furious over Snoop's defiance, even went as far as threatening to kill him.
I seen my cousin Snoop, man. He was like, God, he was sad, man. You know, you can hear in his voice that, you know, I don't want to be here.
Fearing for his life, Snoop decided he couldn't stay. He left Death Row, severing ties with the label.
Fearing for his life, Snoop decided he couldn't stay. He left Death Row, severing ties with the label. With Snoop gone, it was officially the end of an era. Suge had lost all his superstars, and the empire he built was falling apart. Meanwhile, Dr. Dre and Eminem were thriving. Their albums were topping charts, winning awards, and quickly becoming cultural icons.
Grammy goes to Mr. Controversy, Eminem.
Seeing Eminem rise alongside Dre only fueled Suge's anger. He saw their collaboration as a personal attack and made Eminem his enemy.
M had inherited Dr. Dre's beef by signing with Dre.
Suge then began to do everything he could to discredit both Dre and Eminem. In a 2002 interview with Howard Stern, Suge took jabs at Eminem's authenticity, questioning whether he was truly from the streets or just a white rapper playing a role.
What do you think of Eminem? Is that what do you think of white rap?
You really from the ghetto?
No.
You really doing those things you rapping about, you talking about? I can respect that.
Right.
If somebody else writing your rhymes, somebody else, if you telling somebody else's story, that really don't mean.
Suge Knight wasn't the type to stop at just talking. Back in '99 during a Death Row reunion party out in Hawaii, Suge made his move. The event had heavy names on the guest list: Dre, Snoop, Eminem, and even their families came along. It was supposed to be a chill getaway, but Suge had other plans. Sources say he packed his crew into the city, spreading them out, waiting to stir up chaos. Word got back to Dre, and they acted real quick. They weren't about to take chances, especially with their family involved. They called in extra security, even law enforcement, just to make sure nobody got caught slipping.
You know, we were all going out. We were supposed to be on vacation and having a good time with our family and kids and wives, and, just parlaying, man. As the plane land, they open the door up, and you got Honolulu police standing right there talking about, hey, y'all got to come with us. And it was about 20 officers, man. Say, hey, you guys got to come with us. Death Row Records is here. And
Then came 2002, a year that shifted everything. Eminem came across 50 Cent's mixtape Guess Who's Back and immediately knew he was onto something. He passed it to Dre, and the rest is history. Dre and M signed 50 to Shady and Aftermath. And just like that, the streets had a new voice. Get Rich or Die Trying dropped on February 6, 2003. And man, it was a straight Takeover, that joint shot to #1 on the Billboard 200, pulling over 872,000 in the first week alone. Nobody could deny it. 50 was officially here, but stepping into Dre and M's world meant 50 also stepped into their problems, especially the long-standing Smoke Knight. And trust, Suge Knight wasn't just throwing subs.
Suge is coming! So I'm like,
Suge's outside! Suge's outside! Everybody like, he was running, dropping,
so Suge came, he had some Mexican niggas. Now we from New York. You ain't never seen a nigga with a tattoo on his forehead. 118th Street crew. I'm like,
according to reports, Suge didn't like what was happening, so he tried pulling a move straight out of his old playbook intimidation word as he rolled up on the set of 50's in Dot Club video shoot with about 30 deep-looking dudes as soon as folks saw Shu. And his people, most of the crew, wasn't trying to test the waters, dipped fast.
Video and shit, somebody said, Suge Knight here. And 50 I was at the bar, Gang was there, he was shooting in the club scene, and he stopped, and Suge came in with 30 Mexicans, like you said, which is weird, you know what I'm saying?
He always wrong with the Mexicans.
You know what I'm saying? And I just remember smirking.
But here's where it gets real. 50 didn't move an inch. He stepped up, stood his ground, and basically asked Suge Knight straight up what he was on. That alone speaks volumes. When Suge realized his usual scare tactics weren't going to fly this time, he just backed off and left without saying a word.
It was like, Suge's outside! Suge's outside! Everybody like, shit! He was running, dropping shit. Like, man, everybody come in front of the camera like this. Everybody like, wow! Running. It was just gone. Yeah, now it kind of changed a little bit. Like when somebody from the barbershop like punch you and knock you out after that, like knocked out, like the guy from the barbershop do that, it changed. And they be like, Suge's outside, and everybody be like, yeah.
And just when you thought the beef was far from over, it has been rained again because Eminem came with a curveball. An unreleased diss track called Smack You somehow leaked. And let's just say, M wasn't pulling any punches in the track. He goes at both Suge Knight and Ja Rule. And here's where it gets even more heated. M goes as far as blaming Suge for the loss of two major legends in the game, 2P and Biggie. He said, I'm holding Suge responsible for the deaths of the two greatest rappers to ever grace the face of this planet. If only the late, great Mr. Christopher Wallace could talk, he could tell you himself, I'm holding Suge responsible for the death of Ja Rule or anyone else down with Thyro, and the immortal words of Pac speaking for me and any other rapper next to get shot. This track didn't just pop up quietly either. It's reignited some old beef that most people thought had been left in the early 2000s. Seems Suge Knight doesn't have any words yet to answer that, as he's yet to make a comment on the track, and as usual, the internet didn't waste a second. People are talking heavy. One user said, I'm no expert on hood politics, but I've heard many people say that the white dude is often the craziest ones because he's got to prove himself twice as hard. Another user said, 50 did what any person should do to a bully, stand up and show no fear. Bullies prey on fear alone. That right there might explain why M and 50 clicked the way they did. No fear, no backing down, just raw energy. Another person said Shu didn't care about the music ever. He cared about power, and funny enough still does. See how well that worked out for him. Now everybody's asking, should Eminem have dropped this sooner? Would it have hit harder back then when the tension was thick? Or is this exactly the right time for something like this to resurface? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting videos.